thanks very much for inviting me and inviting Enel, NLX in particular this year as the previous year. So we are glad to follow this interesting path with you. And as Celia was anticipating, today we will be discussing about circular citizen, and of course connected to the concept of circular cities. It's definitely something new. It's just the starting. As Francesco likes to ask to the speaker, let's look at the future. Let's start to look at something innovative, something rather than talking about something we already know. Meetings and those important events needs to be the right place to look at the future and see how the market is changing. So, and this is the center of the today speech. I don't know if it's possible to see the presentation.
Yes, you can try to share it.
Okay, I can share directly. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, just 1 second. I thought you were.
No, there was a problem before with the person, but so that's why.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Sorry. No, there is no problem. No, I have here, but I was just, I didn't want to. Okay, perfect.
Good. We can see them perfectly.
Here we are. If we can see the presentation, the title explains very well the journey we are going to start, and is engaging citizen in the transition to circular cities. But first of all, before looking at circular citizen, we need to see the identikit, and so the profile of who are the circular citizen. And of course, we need to look to understand, we need to start looking into micro communities of circular consumers, because is here that we can really start to understand how things are changing and how habits are changing. And in particular, let's look at a possible profile, a possible we call the identikit of the future citizen and the circular citizen. And we have to, of course, base our discussion and our analysis looking at the 5 business models of the circular economy. Starting from the sustainable input, which is the first business model, there is a citizen, in this case, very careful in having saving from a financial point of view. So we are looking at, for example, citizens that are interested in installing a PV plant on their rooftop. But they are doing, in this moment, they are applying the model of sustainable input, but at the same time, they are looking for saving money in their energy bill. This is just an example that is, for example, applying. We can apply also in connection to the electric charging as well. We will see. Of course, I use in this case as a representative of this specific business model, Enel, which is very active above all in the renewable production with the Enel Green Power. And Aquafil, which is a very important reality, a company that is also working a lot on recycling and so using sustainable input in their production. Then we have the product as a service as a second business model. In this case, the user again and the citizen is again a citizen that is looking for financial opportunities, first of all. Is looking for financial opportunities because if this citizen is looking at goods, products, not with an ownership mechanism, which is the old mechanism, but through a product as a service. So he's not buying anymore his lamps, but he's buying the service from Philips. if is not buying anymore the furnitures from IKEA, but is buying a service from IKEA. This is a real change in the current habits of those consumers. And of course, they are driven from a reduction in terms of financial investments, because they are reducing the investments they are doing in the beginning to own the good, and they are postponing this investment through different fee that they are paying through the service fee, and which is the product as a service mechanism. Let's go into the sharing business model of the circular economy, and this is very clear for all of us that live in big cities. Cars, bike, scooter, everything that is possible to share through all those new startups that are starting and are entering in all our circular cities. This is a typical concept of sharing. And again, young people and all the rest of people that are using the car sharing and all the other mobility sharing opportunities are strongly driven from financial opportunities. Maybe not buying anymore, not spending any more money to buy a car. And that the most part of the time, the car that is only parked, that is in our garage. So also, this other business model is very important to look at, identify the circular consumers, but identify very well an important message that this citizen is giving to us, and these financial opportunities. I want to be sustainable, but I want to be sustainable if I have financial opportunities that drive my decision towards certain solutions or certain products. We have also the fourth business model, which is increasing life, let's call life extension, so increasing the product or the solution life. And in this case, again, the consumers and the citizen is very careful to the possibility of repair the product, so make that product prolong the life of that product. And also in this case, there are a lot of initiatives that are starting to reintroduce new products that can be repairable, that can be used for a longer time. And finally, we have the last business model, which is recycling and reuse, identify with the end of life. And also in this case, we are starting to look at a lot of initiatives that are oriented in reusing, recycling our goods at the end of the life. How those initiatives are incentivizing the citizen? Well, they are starting to use gamification and incentive mechanism that can really push the user again through benefits, because through gamification, through incentives, through collecting points or collecting credits, they are or collecting possibility to discount to buy new products. And this is Nike, for example, one of the Nike initiatives, or like happens in many sports, also in big chains. And again, we are looking and we are assisting to this phenomenon that is strongly connected to financial opportunities. So I close this first part of our let's say the identikit and profile of a circular citizen, looking at the 5 business model and looking at how the citizen is changing the experience and is looking to become more circular from one side, but in the same time is looking at financial saving opportunities. Let's see where we are now. We said that we are building the vision through the micro communities currently on the market, because this identikit we saw of a circular consumer doesn't really exist so far. because we created a sort of profile that is the sum of different profiles, of different people, of different communities. So this is something still to be built. But what we know that there are, for example, some important communities, like, for example, the communities of residential PV, so renewable production directly from the home. And what we can see that the trend is definitely okay. Of course, we have an important starting point, and this is specifically connected to the country Italy case study. And we have a target that by 2030, we want to reach the 55% of the total consumption could be covered by renewable energy. So it's a very big target. But in the same time, we are starting to install a lot of capacity. In 2019, there were 272 megawatts. And compare 2018 to 2019, we have almost 5% growth. So it's something that is gradually growing now, depending a lot from the incentives. Now the incentives are strongly also increased in the last month. But in the same time, let's look also what is the typical consumer that we found through public also statistics. For example, that are mainly men, and the age is from 35 to 55. Here is the first, as we said, is just one of the micro community. Of course, is mainly men, and this is a specific age, of course, maybe connected to the ownership of a house. So before installing PV, of course, we need to buy a house first. So that's why the age is moved from 35 to 55. But this is a first thing to look at and to start to analyze. Let's look also to the electric mobility community. This is another big community that is currently growing in the recent period. And of course, again, through the incentive to the electric mobility. Why? Because the cities needs to reduce pollutions, because it's a very important target for all our cities, countries, nations, regions. So what we know is that there is a big trend. There is a big trend that is clearly showed here. So there are less 34% of vehicles registered by September 2020. Of course, COVID-19 impacted on this specific number, but in the same time, there are plus 140 and 54% of electric and hybrid vehicles that have been registered compared to 2019. And also in this case, the main part of this community is from men, 82%, and the age is 38-54 in terms of age, very similar to the photovoltaic. This is something that we need to know, because we need to also to understand why there are this focus, for example, only on certain genders, and also why there is also on certain age category. Same again, let's look at the sharing community. I will go faster for considering the time available, but the sharing community that we all know, we are talking about a very big market. Let's just look at some numbers that, for example, in terms of value of European sharing economy to 2025 is estimated in 570 billion euros. And there are already 270 companies with sharing economy at the center of their business. Here, we already see that the category of users is going, the type of users, so the profile of the citizen is also changing compared to the two categories, where women are main users with the age from 18 to 26, and student. And also, of course, when we are talking about smart workers, where in this case is mainly composed by men from an age from 26 to 40 to 45. And in this case, of course, smart workers, so we consider those as employees. Not Enel employees, but in general employees, so people who occupied working in companies. And finally, let's look also at the repairable and durable products community. In this case, this is still a newest community compared to the others. So it's more under the analysis we are following with a strong attention in this specific community. But we are talking about 2 billion of global revenues coming from this specific market with 100K new jobs that can arise from this. And of course, the interests of citizens are connected to durability, repairability, upgradability, and of course, the financial saving, as we said before, as a cross driver for all those categories of people. So let's look also at the second-hand community connected to recycling and reuse, which is another business model. And also in this case, it's an important micro communities to take under analysis, because the numbers that are behind are very important. We are talking about the 21 billions of second-hand market only in Italy in 2019, where there is a 28% growth rate. This is very important to see this number, because we are in a specific moment, in a specific situation where maybe the second hands can become a real and concrete alternative from a financial point of view for many families, for many people. So looking at this specific segment, we see that motors, home and personal appliances are the main categories where the second hands is exchanged, but is something, those numbers are very important not just from an economic point of view, but also in terms of tons of waste that is saved from the environment thanks to the exchange of these products. But how to move from micro communities to a macro circular community? And for sure, there is a concept we want to start for and use this event, as I said initially to Francesco. There is a cross-fertilization concept that needs to be analyzed and deeply analyzed. For example, this is just one example that is crossing two of those micro communities, which is, for example, the photovoltaic community and also the electric car communities. Why? The two things are extremely connected. Of course, producing directly the electricity to recharge their own car, our own car, is definitely the most the ideal, the optimized solution, because of course I'm producing directly the electricity I'm using to recharge my car. I have a double saving, because of course if I produce directly and I can recharge my car, I can have of course a double saving. In the same time, the two things are extremely connected, because I can optimize my energy production thanks to my car. Of course, it depends from many things, but this is a typical example of cross-fertilization. Another things that I would like to drive your attention, always looking at the future and taking inspiration for what is really happening, is, for example, in terms of how the smart working due to COVID reasons is changing our habits and can also push and drive even those micro communities to become an entire and fully community. For example, many people were not finding useful the PV production, because they were thinking They were not in their home during the day, but they were arriving in their home only in the evening. So the business model was not having the, let's say, the right convenience for those people. Thanks to the smart working, this situation is changed because people now are living also during the day in their home. Many people, a lot of families are not using the car anymore. They do not find anymore having a car something useful because it's just inexpensive. So it's now this situation, the COVID situation, is, for example, incentivizing people now in installing renewable production directly in their home, because now it's convenient from a financial point of view. Leaving their car, so selling their car, not having and not owing anymore a car, but using a car sharing. Using products very close, like for example, food products to 0 kilometers, because they can do shopping, they can eat directly to their homes.
Nicola, can you hear me?
There is
Nicola, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm afraid I have to ask you to conclude your presentation.
Yes, I will go very fast to the last.
Thank you.
To the last slide. And this how we support the citizen towards this circular economy. And what we do as an LX to provide innovative solutions is, first of all, to provide a circular economy report for public administration that can measure 4 components from energy, mobility, waste, and emission. This is an extraordinary innovative tool that we give as a service to public administration and to citizens to see what is the level that where they are starting and how they can improve through a roadmap that can really.
Le cose che poi si propongono.
Excuse me, I cannot hear you, but I have finished with this with this last slide, but I didn't hear if anyone said anything. But
no, there was the new speaker coming and didn't mute,
okay.
so I just muted him.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So fun for me. So thanks very much.